Our next speaker, who is on the program, is Esoteric Del. Now, I must confess, I take complete responsibility for that moniker. Sorry about that, Del. And the reason I did that was because I was talking to somebody and I said, I've got this really outstanding young man coming to speak at AV. And they said, oh, who's that? I said, it's a guy called Del Henry. And he went, what, the comedian? Lenny. I said, no, it's not Lenny, it's Del. So I decided that the upright moniker for the program was Esoteric Del. And when you hear the material that Del is about to present, then you will understand why I put that tag on him. Now, I am going to give you a health warning. Del speaks at about 120 miles an hour. He has no idea how to slow it down, and neither would I want him to. But it is going to be the type of presentation that you're going to have to just take it all in as best you can, and then over the next couple of days, allow it to sink in. Because it took me about a week after the first time I heard Del, and I had to replay the presentation a number of times, and that was when I realized just how amazing his material is. But I can also confirm that he is going to run a workshop on Monday.
That's correct.
And so for those who are intrigued by what he has to share and want to get more information on it, then you'll have that opportunity on Monday morning and maybe even on Monday afternoon as well. So it is my absolute pleasure to welcome our first new speaker to AV8. So, ladies and gentlemen, Del Henry.
Thank you, Ian. Cheers. Thank you. All right, it's on. Okay, if it goes off, I can be much louder, but I'm trying to keep my voice calm because I speak to Ian earlier on about my thing. First things first, Ian, thanks for laying on such an amazing event. Well done and all the work you're doing. It's brilliant. Brian, fantastic talk this morning. And I could just have round of applause for all you've been here because it's just fantastic to see these wonderful, amazing souls here in this room, first and foremost. Now, as Ian will tell you, I am a bit of a speedster, but I'm going to say this now. The journey I've been on over this past 8 years. 8 years in October, I woke up spiritually. And it's the spiritual side that I woke up first before I started to get into all the stuff that we're getting in further down as to how this whole system works, as Brian referenced earlier on, and as more people will be talking about. My thing is about energy and consciousness and who we really are, and what's really going on down here, which is keeping us enslaved. And there is ways to get out of this, and there's also ways to slow these fools down. Now, first thing I'm going to say to you is, Ian, I all right to have my workshop filmed on Monday by my friend, just for private purposes. Is that all right? You're all right with that? On Monday, I'm doing a workshop. It's going to be quite practical. The issue is, what's happening is that all the governments of the planet are not governments, they're actually corporations for the Curia. I'm going to get in on it a bit later on. I'm going to just do a brief kind of thing I want to talk about. So there are solutions now where we're using them at the moment, where we can prove that what's happening with the courts, or you're dealing with government, or whoever which agency it is, because we're all agents working for the Curia, that what's happening in most circumstances, and I'm going to do some practical stuff with you, hopefully you may have something on you that I might be able to use. The most circumstances are actually committing what's called mail fraud. And so what we're able to do using convention law, what we've been doing, is kicking their butt because they don't like it, because we know they're going after the estate, but because they commit mail fraud, no contract is valid. So everything they're doing with all this monetary system, I'm going to get in on, the whole thing is an illusion. The key thing is you have to have dominion over yourselves, knowing who you are, which is why you're all here. And that same energy that you're in this room that's vibrating right now, the same thoughts, the positive process, that's going out into the aura fields, into the earth's grids, and that's everybody else is feeling that same energy. So we're already winning. Because the Jesuits don't even want us having this information, yet we've got it, and we're all here sharing this information, so we're already stood up against them. And so that's why they spend all the time trying to close us down, because like the Matrix, the architect who's the Pope I think it's in the second film, and he talks about this equation where he keeps trying to crush this equation, and that's us in this room. That's that consciousness that cannot be touched. That's that consciousness. No matter what they try, we know who they are because we know who we are. We've got dominion over ourselves. We don't have to do what they tell us to do. We do what we want to do. As long as we don't do harm to any other living souls, we can do what we want. And that's it. That's the vibration, the energy we need to send out into the world. So that's one of my key points I wanted to start off with more than anything else. So what I'm going to do is, please, 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 I can see this wonderful woman taking notes down. take notes down because I'm going to be going reference points galore. Okay, you're going to have some really good factual information. I'm going to give you treaty law. I'm going to talk about the dates of the treaties. You need to write these down and go and study them. A lot of the papal bulls I actually do have, and I've actually got them and I've gone through them. Some of the other stuff I don't have, but a lot of the stuff you can find in books. I've got some books down there. A lot of stuff you can find online. You can go to visit places. I've done loads of research. So for me, it's please, anything you find fascinating, just jot it down, because I'm going to have it all up here anyway. Just jot something down. Think, you know what it is? When I go home, I'm going to look at that. When I go home, I'm going to go find this. And you'll begin to start to put the picture together about what's really been going on third dimensional Earth. And it is metaphysical and spiritual more than anything else, which is why I always start with this. Because the one thing the Roman cult can't control is the universe. The issue is what because we're, as Brian said earlier on, because of NLP, neural, here we go. Technical. I've had a fiddle. Right. So basically, for me, the most important thing is they can't control the stars. They can't control the planets. That ancient knowledge we used to have as people during the Resonance period. What's happened since the Roman cult has been running this whole illusion is that we've got religion, which is realized going on, and they're using this stuff, the cosmogony, and they're running the solar system properly, they're running the planets properly, with beings on world and off world. And that's as far as I'll go on that, because I don't want to get too esoteric. But it's way bigger than what people are thinking. It's way bigger. It's not just about money in the banking. It's about the whole universe, it's this part of the cosmos, the changes that are coming with Revelation, I'm going to talk about in a bit, in a little while, that they know that there's certain energies that come into the planet because of the age of Aquarius. So I'm going to talk about that later on and how it is that they're using that and try to program us, which what Brian was talking about earlier, so that we're not picking up those vital higher frequencies to take us and helping the planet to raise its vibration. Because remember, we're all a part of the same planet. The Earth's the same, she's the same as we are. She's as sentient as we are. She knows those of us who have got stronger energies, those of us who are putting out that positivity. She knows we're putting in the work in, so we are winning that battle, I must say that. As hard as crazy as it looks and as mad as it looks, we are winning the battle because you're all here. That's proof. All right? So let me get into what I was going to talk about. So first things first, and I'm just going to move this down if it'll let me go. Right. So basically, it's cosmogony, omniverse, universe, stars, planet, solar system. We all came from there. The priesthood has put themselves in between us and that, and we need to kick the dead priesthood out of the way. That's what the issue is, first and foremost. Because we've got dominion over ourselves, and as long as we can prove that, you're kicking the priesthood out of the way, and then we're dealing with all this stuff, which means we don't need them, and that whole thing shuts down, and we lose the whole illusion. Biggest thing, the biggest thing about the illusion, the biggest thing they've got is the illusion itself. It's the fact that people don't know. You lot are in this room, but a lot of people are out there right now who don't know about this stuff. And they think that this planet's supposed to be run this way. It's not supposed to be run this way at all. And the way we interact with each other, having wars all the time, all this nonsense, none of it we need. So, you know what I mean? So let's keep going. So it's about cosmogony. So the next thing we get into, obviously, the planets give, and the stars and everything give energies between each other. Saturn, Earth, they all give energies between each other. And those energies come into what's called energy. We have what's there, what I'm communicating with you now with energy, that's language. So the thing I'm into is etymology, which is the linguistics. Again, with Brian talking about the NLP. The key thing is words cut like swords. It's all about the energy in the words. So what etymologists are, the etymon is the science that treats the word. It gets to the root of the word, its beginning, its origin, where it came from energetically. That's why I like etymology, because when they have all the madness that they're talking about and all this linguistics and cognitive linguistics and NLP, when you do this, no matter what words are spun at you, you just do the breakdowns. I mean, I've got stuff here I'm going to show you later on. You do the breakdown, you split the words up, get the energy behind them, and then you know, no matter what they say to you, you're losing the thing, you're getting rid of the false negative programming. The other thing is, you go to any courts in this country, or the governments, it's military science, it's the art of war. I've got a book down here that I want you to read. I'm going to quote you the book and then just go and find it. It's a really good book. It's the art of war. And the Jesuits are a military order. That's why everything is orders in courts, everything's an order. Orders to do with military. Everything is running military at the moment. So, and with that, as obviously it's political science and civics of government and how governing the mental government, it's in the words, governing the mental. And my story or mystery and his story, the stories he's giving this to us, it's all in the wording. It's just break up the words and use the science. The biggest thing they're using, I'm going to touch this today, is the joint stock canon law trust that they're doing for your birth certificate. I am going to kill that today. And in my presentation tomorrow, I'm going to put the bonds online. I'm going to show you how to trade online. And I was doing it the other day. And you're actually trading everybody's birth certificates online. I actually can do that using the the numbers on your birth certificates. So they are doing this stuff. They're not supposed to be doing this stuff, but they are doing it. This is key with everything that we're dealing with. Absolutely key is a contract. Everything in their system relies on us agreeing to it.
Let's switch mics.
Yeah. It's not letting me do it because I'm too high on vibration. Always happens when I'm doing this. It always happens. Always try to stop me from what I'm doing.
So it'll work perfectly for me then.
Yeah. No, you're not bad. You're good. You'll be fine. But not another way. Right. So everything you do in this revise this register, consent, contract. Every time you go to a bank, contract. Everything you're doing is agreeing. The issue, what's happening? The reason why they get away with it is because with not honouring the free will principle. The biggest thing to shut the beast down is to stop feeding it. Stop contracting. And what I've been doing is and I'm not saying I'm completely out of the system yet. I'm not. I'm working on it, but I've minimized the amount of contracts I've got. And that's what we need to start doing, is minimizing the amounts of contracts, because then he's not changing the sweat equity. I'm going to talk about that in a bit, and converting the living into the deed using the joint stock trust for your birth certificates. And the big thing about these people, numerology, 9/11, all these events happened recently on 3/22 when we had the Westminster thing on Westminster Bridge. Again, 3/22, Skull and Bones. It's all trauma-based programming on the masses, where they're able to feed off what's called your root chakra energy, and that's the energy that these other beings that they work with feed off. And that's why we constantly have wars going on, trauma-based program going on, lies on the tele-live vision, all kind of madness. So like I said, so numerology is key, because what I do, I don't tend to look at events. I tend to look at the date, I look at the time the date's happened, I just use the numerology, break it down numerologically, and don't get caught up in the event itself, but start to break down what they're trying to program the masses with. So that's what I tend to do. And numbers are largely so, because the numbers don't lie. They lie, but the numbers don't. So let me keep going. And remember, people, know yourself, know who you are, know that you've got dominion of yourself, know yourself, do your own due diligence. Don't take my word for it. You confirm your own truth. You must do your own due diligence. You study, you learn, you choose, and then you can start to use that same energy, put that back out there, and you can be able to free yourself and stop doing all this nonsense that they want us to do. Right, so cosmogony is a model concerning the coming into the existence or origin of either the cosmos, universe, or the so-called reality of sentient beings, is what we are. Cosmogony, any specific theory, model, myth, or the account of the origin of the universe. The study, which is what the Jesuits do, the study of the origin and sometimes the development of the universe, of the solar system, astrophysics, religion, and other fields. So basically, no, they know how they're running everything, because, again, they can use this science to run us. I'm going to talk about it a little bit along. It's to do with the money as well, and the banking, how they do it esoterically as well. Okay. Black magic programming with the priesthood. Make sure I don't knock that down. So black magic programming. So etymology, I'm going to talk about this. Basically, it's a chronological account of the birth and the development of the particular word or element of a word, often delineating its spread from one language to another and its evolving changes in the form and meaning. Okay? 3, the study of historical linguistic change, especially as manifested in the individual. The study of the distribution and patterning of speech sounds in a language and of the tacit rules governing the pronunciation, because that's the key, is how we pronounce it. Very key. Also, the phonological system or body of phonological facts of a language. Morphology, and these are elements of etymology, these different elements I want to give it. Morphology, the branch of biology, because remember biology dealing with the form and structure of organisms. So once you know morphology in the words, they can program your energetics. That's what I was talking about earlier on. So they're programming you from the, outside in, and we're supposed to just concentrate on ourselves on the inside and move that nonsense back out. The form and structure of an organism considered as a whole is what we are, we're whole living beings. Linguistics, another key element. The pattern of word formation in a particular language, including the inflection, derivation, and composition, and the study and description of such patterns. The study of the behavior and combination of morphemes. So they know all this. And this is what you study at the top Jesuit universities, top universities like Oxford, Cambridge, Georgetown, Yale, all the top universities. That's what they study. They study linguistics. The masses don't get that, but the top people, the top priests, they get the real information, and that's how they're able to program the masses.
Let's keep going. Syntax, or noun linguistics, is the study and the rules of the formation of the grammatical sentences in a language. The study of the patterns and formation of the sentences and phrases from the words. Logic, the branch of modern logic that studies the various kinds of signs that occur in a system. Remember, the OS programmers using signs because they know how that works. And that's why you letters, like, if you look at an A, it's in the alphabet, it's like a pyramid. So if you look at all the letters, they mean stuff as well. So let me keep going. Signs, and the possible arrangement of those signs, complete abstraction being made of the meaning of the signs, the outcome of such a study when directed upon a specific language, a system of orderly arrangement. That's a key word, because remember, judges, priests, they all make orders, so they know everything's orderly. That's a part of programming as well again. We know about linguistics, the study of meaning. Linguistics is development by classifying and examining the changes in meaning and form, also called significs, and the branch of semantics dealing with the relations between signs and what they denote, and the meaning or interpretation of the meaning of a word or a sign. And that's why they use not just vibrations to programmers, they use symbols, they use numbers, they use everything to program you, because they know that they have to encompass everything in order to program a sentient being, so they know what they're doing. Keep going. And Ian, how am I doing for time at the moment, Ian? Okay. Numerology is the study of numbers and the occult manner in which they reflect certain aptitudes and characters' tendencies as an integral part of the cosmic plan, because they know how the numbers is how everything runs. There's only, by the way, there's only 9 real numbers in math. All the others are compound numbers. 10 is 1 plus 1. 10 is 1 plus 0, 11 is 1 plus 1, that's 2. All the others can fit into the first 9. So the only numbers you need in math is 0 through 9. All the rest are all fraud. They're just, all the rest of them, you can derive it back to the first 9 numbers. So they're the only numbers you really need to have. Now let me keep going. Each letter has a numeric value that provides a relation to cosmic vibration, because they know how cosmogony works, the sum of the numbers in your birth date, and the sum of value derived from the letters in the name provide an interrelation of vibrations. Those numbers show a great deal about character. They know this with your birth charts and stuff like that. That's why they pick the soles of your feet. I'm going to get in on that later on when you're born. Purpose in life, what motivates and where talents may lie. Experts in numerology use numbers to determine the best time. This is why they always do stuff with 9/11 and 7/7 and it's 3 7s, and they know what they're doing. It's a time for major moves, 322 Westminster Bridge, and activities in life. Numerology is used to decide when to invest, when to marry, when to travel, and when to change jobs, relocate. I'm not claiming that this website is going to make you an expert, and that's, I was just reading that there. But that's a site that you could go, which is a good site, just that one down there, astrologynumerology.com. That's a good one I was looking at not long ago. So just check that up there if you want to go and look at that site. But that's basically a site I was looking at recently. There's quite a lot that I look into. That's one of the better ones that I look in when it comes to numerology. But that's key when you're dealing with anything that they're dealing with. Now, my favorite boys. These are the ones who are running the planet right now, is the Roman Jesuit cult. Basically, the Jesuits have got what's called the original information from what's called the Knights Templars. The Jesuits are actually the revived Templars, the Teutonic Knights and all the other Knights. The Jesuits conquered those, and now they've got all that knowledge, and that's how they're running the planet. So basically, Freemasonry, they'll say, Brian said something earlier on, Freemasonry, people think that it's controlled through the UG Lodge in London, and I've actually been there, by the way, and I was doing some decoding while I was there. I've actually been to these places. I'm not one of these people who just chat rubbish and don't do no due. You need to go and visit these places and see this, because when I was there, I also found out Nelson Mandela was a Knight of Malta, and so if you know where to look, which I was doing at the time, I found out a lot of these leaders are in these secret societies, but the information is there, but you just need to know where to look, and a lot of it I was finding. So the UGA Lodge, everybody keeps saying is the head of Freemasonry. That's a lie. You need to write down Ecclesia Lodge in the Vatican. That's the one that's controlling. So the lodge that we see at the top of Freemasonry in the world is UGA Lodge. The lodge above that is the Ecclesia Lodge. That's in the Vatican. So that's how Freemasonry is controlled through the P2 Lodge. So the Jesuits control it all. If it's the top Zionist Jews, most of them are Hofton Jews. They're Jesuit Jews. So the Jesuits are in league with all these people. These are the ones with the Archon of Atlantis, the 13 powerful nobility bloodline families, and the Council on Foreign Relations, the Council of Trent, and these are the ones who are behind the scenes running your political leaders. So these are the ones, you see Cameron, he's a member of the Knight of the Garter through Freemasonry, these lot control him. If you see Nelson Mandela or the Queen's the Dame Hospitality of the Knights of Malta, she's controlled by the Roman cult. So I know where to look, and I've got the Queen in regalia. I'm not going to show that picture today, but I've got her in Masonic regalia. So if you know where to look and you do the proper study, you can find what it is that you're after. So let me just get in on the priesthood who are actually running everything at the minute. So in the middle of the 18th century, the famous Society of Jesus, you write anything down you find interesting, comprised about 20,000 members. This is in the 18th century. They could be found in all parts of the world. There was not a country, no matter how remote or difficult to access, where the silent-footed Jesuit was not busily at work. The society possessed immense wealth, and they still do, for the Canon Law Joint Stock Trust, they still do for your birth certificates. The live bond record the Vatican have got, but I'll talk about that later on. It controlled, to a large extent, the education of youths. Remember what Brian was talking about earlier? Because these lot are behind these linguistics, not the rest of it. It's these lot behind it all. And Brian's very correct. They're all programming everybody, which is why I talked about etymology, because that's how you don't get programmed. The education of youths in many countries. Among its members were the confessors of kings and princes. It exerted a powerful political influence in the civil and this is a key word, I'm going to kill this word later on, administration. Trump administration, Obama administration, not government. You need to know what that word means. I'm going to kill it later on because I've got a definition from it. Of the Catholic countries. The Jesuits were in fact at the height of their power and their fame when their downfall was decreed. And there have been people who've tried to rise up against them, but they failed. The causes that brought this were many and varied, but among them may be mentioned the accusation that the Jesuits converted their missionary stations into commercial, that's a key word in the word, commercial centers. So that's what we're dealing with right now. That's why I talked about administration. Commercial centers, and conducted bold speculation more lucrative to the order than to their country. I'm going to enjoy this. Can a man serve God faithfully? God, governance, ordinance, departments. Not God what you think. There's a different God. Remember, the acronym, governance, ordinance, departments. That's why you have cabinet members, cabinet this, ministers, all this kind of foolishness. Faithfully possess slaves. Brother Joseph Mobley, S.J., asked in his diary in 1818, yes, he answered, it is then lawful to keep men in servitude, yes. The Jesuits of the Maryland province had always relied on their plantations to support their ministries. Key word there. Another key word, the estates, because that's what they're running you off. Where you Canon Law Trust is off your estate. They're running your estate and they're putting you trustee of it. You shouldn't be doing that, but that's what they're doing. The estates were extensive, totaling 12,000 acres on 4 large properties in southern Prince George's, Charles and St. Mary's counties, and the 2 smaller estates of Maryland Eastern Shore. In 16, again I'm giving you references because write the dates down, in 1634, when the Jesuits arrived in Maryland, Lord Baltimore awarded them quasi, because it was still never land under the Inquisition, and that's what's still going on right now, quasi estates in which they were permitted to live off the rent of tenant farmers. However, at University, Dean Herbert Cork explains, the system was totally antiquated and Rome's antics, not related to reality, and they realized they were not going to make any more money. So the Jesuits turned indentured servants, English men and women. So if you think that just what were so-called black people, and I'm not black, let me make that very clear, I am not black, because that's another form of slavery to put everybody under. You're not white, you're not black. You need to get rid of all stupid legal status. That's all foolishness. This is why, because it wasn't people who just brought from Africa, people who brought from England. This is what people don't realize. I keep telling you lot, they think, oh, well, white people didn't get enslaved, and you're not white. It's all nonsense. You need to realize that the Roman cult is going around mashing up everybody, including you lot. And everyone keeps telling me like it's just black people enslaved. No, it wasn't. They did it to everybody. And you're still enslaved now for your birth certificate, and people don't realize it. So get used to the fact that it wasn't just black, so-called blacks were enslaved, because they weren't. They did it to everybody. Now, indentured servants, English men and women who worked the land for a set term in return for passage. Remember how many people left to America now? So remember what they were doing when they left from here to America, from England to Maryland. But as working conditions improved in England, the supply of indentured servants dropped, and the Jesuits once again found a new way to work the land. By the 1860s, they relied upon a fully developed slave system, and that's why you get the Cestui Trust and the common law trust in your birth certificate and the bonds, because they've been planning this for a long time. You're going to find that out later on. And they're bringing a new beast in, and I'm going to expose a new one that's coming in too. This is where, please, 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 write down, do your own due diligence. Council of Nicaea 325 AD. People think the church and state separate. That's a lie. The church is a body politic, and that's why you always deal with democracy. Simple as that. That's the Jesuits form of government. We're supposed to have a constitutional monarchy in this country. We have a democracy. Constitutional monarchy and democracy are two different words. They have two different meanings. Therefore, they're not the same thing. So think about that. Council of Nicaea 325 AD. First Council of Constantinople 381. Remember, you write this down because you're going to need it. First Council of Vesuvius 431 AD. Council of Chalcedon 451 AD. Second Council of Constantinople 553 AD. Third Council of Constantinople 681 AD. Second Council of Nicaea, another key one, 787 AD. Fourth Council of Constantinople 869. And the first Lateran Treaty, the key one is the one that happened in 1929. There's one after this that I've got today, but I'm not talking about it. First Lateran Council, 1123 AD, write that down. And the second Lateran Council, 1139 AD. Now, very important. You had that second Lateran Council, and just afterwards, you can see here, a papal bull from the Roman cult was released. Honorum Datium Optiminium endorses the Knights Templar. Remember I told you about the Jesuits being revived Templars. And here goes, 1144, Militaris Template. 1144 provides clergy protection to the Knights Templar and encourages contributions to their cause. I can't speak Latin very well, so Latis ad Corpus 1233 marks the start of this is key, marks the start of the Inquisition, and the church has gone around the whole planet and everybody's been enslaved by the Roman cult. The church is the body politic, not the religion. It's the body politic that's enslaving everybody. People don't realize the difference. Think church and state separate. The whole life you've been told. That's not the case. Exodus 1252 authorizes the use of torture for eliciting confessions. Remember what happens in a court, because it's penance, guilty or not guilty, from heretics, which is what the class you and me as, during the Inquisition, and executing relapsed heretics by burning them alive. Woo! Big one here. This is a key one you should all read. And I've got this. Unum Sanctum 1302 declares that there is no, and I've wrote this up on purpose, declares that there is no salvation outside the church. And the church must remain united. Are we clear? So if you're not Christian, look what they're thinking of you. And if you are Christian, they're still enslaving you. So Dom de Verses authorizes Alonso of Portugal to reduce any Muslims, Moors, my ancestors, pagans, and other unbelievers to perpetual slavery. Make sure you do that and study it. I've got that actually, but study it, please. It's a really important one. And I love this one here. Romanus Pontifex. God say that was one I can say. Sanctifies the siege of non-Christian lands discovered during the Age of Discovery and encourages the enslavement of natives. And one of my favorite ones here now, I've got this one, I was reading it not long ago, I did a show on it. Intercantera 1493 devised a new world between Spain and Portugal. It called for the indigenous peoples to be subjugated, so the Christian empire and its doctrines would be propagated. That's why everywhere has churches, people. Everywhere you go, you see a church. I love this one. This is a key one because this is where they're claiming your soul. Another one. Apostolics Remengis 1513 concerning the immortality of the soul. They're claiming everybody's souls. They're claiming everybody's souls through convocation. I'm going to kill that later on because I've got a big thing on that as well. The Society for Jesus, born by Ignatius Loyola, 1540. The Gregorian calendar, this calendar we're using right now is a complete sham. We shouldn't even be on it. It's a complete fraud. That's the calendar we've got right now, and the calendar's off. They're not timing things right. The Earth's vibration's risen up so much that we're not even 24-hour days no more. The whole thing's been changing up because of what's going on with the Aquarian energies coming in. And this is my favorite one. And I was going to quote from this, but I think I've got it, but I don't think I've put it up. Emancipate, recognizing that this is the key one, the Roman Curia, establishing several permanent congregations to advise the Pope. The Roman Curia, there is not one world order. There's not one new world order. There's always been one order, and that's it. There's one government that runs the planet. There's only one government that runs the planet, that is the Curia. Only one. Every corporation is under that Curia, and I'm going to show you that later on. All of them are under the Curia. I'm going to come back to this country now. What happened to us? The barons kicked a stink with Magna Carta, but nobody tells you why. This is why the barons kicked a stink with Magna Carta. Once upon a time, before the year 1066, and it wasn't once upon a time, actually it did happen, the people of England, and this is another key word, and I don't like to use the word A, but it's not allodial, it's lodial, because when you put A in front of words, it changes the meaning again through linguistics. So the lodial title to their land, if you got a mortgage right now and got a house right now, you don't own it. Let me tell you that now. You don't have the lodial title. That's why you pay council tax. That's why you got postal codes, all this kind of nonsense. So you don't own your house. You just sharecropping the estate. Not even the king could take the land for not paying the tax. When we had the lodial title, they couldn't do that. That's why the Jesuits come and took it, but we're getting on that. This is what really happened. That's why I've got the Jesuit, Peter's thing down here with the key to the earth. I think we don't know what they're doing, but they're going to have another thing come because we ain't sleeping. William the Conqueror came in 1066 and stole the king's title and took the land of the people. From William I, 1066, to King John, 1099. King John's the key one. 1099, England was in dire straits and was bankrupt. They've been at this for decades, the Roman code. The king invoked the law of mortmain, the dead man's hand. So the people couldn't, remember who owned the land? What did it say there? So the people couldn't. What did it say? So the people couldn't. Who had the land then? Not the king. The people had it. So remember, keep that in mind. So the people couldn't pass their land to the church, because King John knew what they were doing, and so did the barons. Church, or anyone else without the king's permission. Modern day probate. Without mortmain, the king would lose the land he controlled. The Vatican didn't like that, because the king owed lots of pounds to the Vatican. By the way, they're using gold and silver in those days. We don't have that now. We've got fiat, and that's a fraud. King John refused to upset the Vatican's representative, Stephen Langton. You write everything down that you want to know, whom the Pope Innocent III installed to rule England. Religious or fact, well, I think they did. In 12A, England was placed under papal interdict. Interdict means probation. I'm going to keep going on this. You're going to find this interesting. 1213, and the contract called Treaty of Verona, King John, as most kings tried to no avail, to establish William the Conqueror as did a dictatorship. This means to be the model to follow, and William set a precedent that all kings and queens would try to follow, which is still going on now, or at least they would try to push the boundaries further to set out in the doctrine written by the Church of Rome. The Pope's main goal, and this is why I talked about unum sanctum, the Pope's main goal was to try to control, which they are, control all the lands of the world under the doctrine. He is the vicar of Christ. Vicarious means in place of, by the way. Vicarious, vicar of Christ. Vicarious means in place of. Is a substitute. Using the myth of Jesus Christ, Jesus didn't exist, but Yeshua did, but Jesus didn't exist. That's a whole other illusion they're giving you. To achieve this, placing him at the top of the chain, and by using the myth to his and who it serves benefit, he would proclaim that he was the owner of all lands on behalf, remember, on behalf, in place of, vicarious, vicar, on behalf of Jesus, until such time Jesus, who doesn't exist, would return, and he would supposedly hand it back to him. Contained within this is every living, breathing creature, included us, basically in servitude to his wishes and all his commands. This was done through the legal system called canon law. The law of contracting that works through fiction. Birth certificates, wink, wink, as itself is only fiction. So the set, the stage, we have the Pope at the top of the chain, supposedly owning all the land and everything upon it. I'm going to show you how to claim his soul later. And canon law, which is really ecclesiastical law, as the script for the play. And the principles of the script to be that the principles of religion contribute most powerfully to keep the nations in a state of passive obedience, including their kings and queens, in being the vicar of Christ, the number one law to be used as the first, as at the first was the fear of God. Government's ordinance departments to run everybody through government. So that's why the barons kicked a stink is because they knew what John did. That's why the barons kicked a major stink. Because they think, hang on a minute, what are you doing selling our land to these idiots? You're just putting us into slavery. That's why they forced King John to Magna Carta, because they knew this. And the masses of the people also knew this. But you don't know that now because of the Counter-Reformation. You do now. Do your own due diligence. Saturnalia, we're on Saturn's Day today. People need to know cosmogony. Saturday, Sunday, I'm going to get on this in a bit later on. Saturnalia, cult of Baalism. Ground Zero during the cleanup of the World Trade Center in 2002 on the huge electric billboard facing the site were the Roman numerals for 9/11. You can see it there, 9/11, with the two numbers being separate by a space. The past 2,000 years, the Roman cult empire Jesuits has set up a system of ownership of all property and souls that exist on this earth through papal bulls and trusts. I did a bit of research on this, and amazing what I came up with, and I'm going to show you in a second. So that's what they've been doing. I'm going to talk about the trust and how to do that. This is one of the trusts they set up, which you're all familiar with that one, aren't you? You should all know that one. Everybody should know about 1666. You all know that one. You might not know about 1213. Give me a hands up for 1666. Does everybody know what happened in 1666? Do you all know? Yeah. Can I just have a show of how many people actually do know what happened in 1666? The Great Fire in London never took place. You know the Pope declared everybody dead. There was no fire in London. That was an illusion. You know that, don't you? This is what really happened. All right? Surprisingly, people don't know. So the Sesquique Trust, this is how they've enslaved you. This is one of the, through the papal bulls, when we had the Treaty of Verona, they converted everybody's estates and they made people into vassals, into fictions, and then the people kept rebelling against it because they knew what was going on. So it took them to this point where we've been killing everybody, murdering everybody, doing the Inquisition, what I was showing you with the papal bulls, to get this in place. So let me go on it. So 1666, the dead priesthood. Okay. Since 1933, when a child is born, remember what Brian Gary said about the coming after your children. Brian was spot on, he was right. When child is born, the executors or administrators, key words there, of the higher estate, which is what they keep accessing every time you go to court, every time you go to a job, every time you do anything interacting with this beast. Access the higher estate knowingly and willingly claim the baby as chattel. Right, I've got that term down, it's actually here, but that, and these terms are, by the way, from Law Dictionary. I don't use no random terms. I use terms from Law Dictionary. You need to do get proper dictionaries. I've got Law Dictionaries. I've got manual styles down here and stuff like that. You need to get proper things when you're dealing with these beasts, because you can have to break down the words and know what it really means. All right, so you should be getting the stuff. I'm going to got the books down here. I'm going to show you them, and you need to just write them down and then go and get them and do your own study. So let me keep going. Chattel to the estate. This is why that's why you have the word state in government. It's to just took the E off your estate. That's why they have to try to hide it all the time. The slave baby contract is created by honoring the ancient tradition of either having and the ink impression of the feet of the baby onto the live born record. And you've seen this. If you're a mum, you'll have seen this, where they prick the soles of your feet. Who's had children? You've seen this at the hospital. Have you all seen that? Yes, so you all know I'm telling you the truth. I'm offering you the truth, nothing more. Are we clear? How many of you seen them actually do that? Prick the soles of your feet. Just put your hands up if you're a mum or dad. So there you go. So it's not me telling you an illusion. You've seen this for yourself. You just didn't know why they were doing it. What I'm going to show you is why they're doing it and who benefits from it. It certainly ain't you lot. Now let's keep going. A drop of its blood, as well as tricking the parents paying rent, to sign the baby away through the deceitful legal meanings on the live birth record, which is in the Vatican, by the way. This live birth record as a promissory note. This is why you got promissory note. Take out your £10 notes, £20 notes. That's why they're all there. Because when your child is born, they ream in pounds and ounces, pounds, and they create fiat off that. That's how money is created. It's not money, it's actually fiat. It don't exist, it's not real. The life birth record as a promissory note converted into a slave bond. That's why things on bonds in this country all over the world. Sold to the private reserve bank, or the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve. All the banks are private. I'll get on that later on, of the estate, and then conveyed into the second separate Sestigave trust. The child owned by the bank upon the promissory note reaching maturity, the bank being unable to seize the slave child, a maritime, key word there, a maritime lien is lawfully issued as salvage, again, salvage, and the lost property, because that's what the class insurance does, lost property, and itself is monetized as currency issued against the Sestigave trust. Enough said. No more on that, but let's keep going. Ian, how am I doing for time at the minute? I need to speed up then because I've got so much and I ain't got enough time. Right, write these terms down. These are from Law Dictionary, by the way. To administer trusts. Administer to trust. Administer, that's why in this what's going on in the court, administer in your state. That's why I put that up there. To administer trust, to do some act in relation to an estate, such none but the owner or some one authorized by him or by law, in case of his decease, could legally do. Administration, remember I said that word, trust, the management of an estate or an interstate or a minor. Remember what I just told you about the Sestigave? A minor, lunatic, or a habitual drunkard, or other person, legal fictions, who is incapable, incompetent of managing his own affairs or estate. They're entrusted to an administrator. This is why an employee, nominee, bailee, trustee, refugee, detainee, same thing. Just need to know what was going on. Where was that? Administrator of the trustee by an authority of law in more confined sense, and in which it will be used in this article. Administration is the management of the interstate estate or the estate of the testor, who at a time the administration was guaranteed and had no executor because your mum and dad signed you away. That's what really happens. So basically that's what's going on. What happens is when they set up the Sestigave, they create 3 titles. The live-born record, the Jesuits get in the Vatican. The legal title, which is in the district, is the long form, which you all know about. And the equitable title, which is the trustee of the estate, is what you get, which is called the birth certificate. And that's what's going on. So they create 3 titles. And the legal title is why the government writes you in Mr. in all legal fictions. That's why they can write you like that, because they're writing to your estate and they're getting you to stand as trustee of your estate. Let me keep going because I'm just killing it. Let me get to what I came for. This is why I'm here. Global banking operations. Please write things down because it's interesting. This is what's really going on. Now I've got to the estate and it's conveyed into the Sestigave, into the banks. Central banks in their superstructure of Bank of International Settlements. I'm going to talk about that beast in a bit. I'm going to show you how the Roman cult run it as well. In 1930 in Switzerland, that's why the Pope has a Swiss guard. Remember I talked about the Knights Templars. Central bank members. Examples, Bank of England, underneath this one. Bank of France, Federal Reserve, Vatican, Deutsche Bank, European Central Bank, and IMF. All these institutions under this big beast. Are we clear? Are we clear? All right. Little is known, but the extremely powerful Bank of International Settlements spent the 1930s and 40s utterly laundering the Nazis' ill-gotten gains under the cloak of neutrality. Basically, anything you see here you want to write down, but basically I just put a bit of quotes in. Mainly it's the Treaty of Rome 1958 to provide financing for capital investment furthering the European Union's policy objective. That's why they keep trying to push the euro on the people, because it's bringing this new system into place. So again, and that's one of the things this bit I wanted to read. Federal Reservist movement in Switzerland to bring together organizations, remember what Brian said earlier, to bring together organizations and individuals which will support the establishment of a global federal system of strengthened and a democratized, not a republic, a democratized global institution with plenipotentiary constitutional power accountable to the citizens. That's the fraud, because citizens means your property anyway. But that's what they've going on, and that's what Brian was saying earlier on. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. Let's get into the Bank of International, and the IMF, so that's where they are. So BIS, Bank of International, was established in 1930. And remember, I'm giving you a reference quote, so please do the study. I'm giving you ideas of when things happen, where it started, so you can go and do your own due diligence. Established in 1930 by an intergovernmental agreement between Germany, Belgium, France, the United Kingdom Corporation, because it's Great Britain's the landmass, Italy, Japan, and United States, and Switzerland. It's opened its doors in Basel in Switzerland on the 17th of May, 1930. The Bank of International Settlement was originally intended to facilitate reparations imposed on the treaty, on Germany by the Treaty of Versailles. Now, looking at Karen Hudis, right, Karen Hudis, she's been talking about Treaty of Versailles bonds because these bonds are being backed against the people, and the Jesuits know this, and they weren't supposed to be doing all that. So she's trying to get the money, the collateral accounts which Jose Rizal put in into the gold in trust. It hid the world's gold. The Jesuits have been thieving all the world's gold, and they've got it in Switzerland. Some of it's in China, and the rest of it, some of it's in the Philippines. But a lot of the world's gold, the Jesuits have been hiding, and they've done this by having installed central banks everywhere. So because the Treaty of Versailles bonds, Carnegie is trying to get the gold out of the trust so that Imani can gather it. So she's trying to stop the this main agenda going. Because if we don't get that gold and stuff, we're going to get this new system I'm going to show you later on, and that's just more back to more foolish slavery. So let me keep going. All right. But Treaty of Versailles was after World War I. So all wars were fought by bankers. You should know that. All wars, World War II, I, all of them are fought by bankers to make everybody slaves. And to act as the trustee for the German government. International loan, Young Loan, was floated in 1930. The need to establish a dedicated institution for this purpose was suggested in 1929 by the Young Committee and was agreed to in August of that year at the conference at The Hague. The charter for the bank was drafted at the International Bankers Conference in Baden-Baden in November, and the charter was adopted at the Second Hague Conference on January 20th, 1930. According to the charter, shares in the bank could be held by individuals and non-governmental entities. Not us, you know, non-governmental entities. However, the rights of voting and representation at the bank's general meeting were to be exercised exclusively by central banks of the countries, who are all run by the Roman cult anyway. So the whole game is rigged, in which the shares have been subscribed. So there you know where the fraud is going on, because you never get anybody appointed to the banks, because the central banks are run by the Bank of England. The Bank of England is run by the Roman cult. They appoint who everybody wants to appoint. They appoint everybody here. The whole thing's a fraud. The whole thing's a joke. The IMF and the World Bank were both created at an international conference convened in Bretton Woods. Quote this down, you need to write this down. Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, United States in July 1944. The goal of the conference was to establish a framework for economic cooperation and the development that would lead to the more stable and prosperous global economy. Well, remember what Brian says, everyone's been globalized, slavery. That's because of the age of Aquarius. While the goal remains central to both institutions, their work was constantly evolving in response to new economic developments and challenges. The IMF's mandate, the IMF promotes international monetary cooperation and provides policy advice and capacity development support to help countries build and maintain strong economies. Econ on my, it's the econ on my, what's what it really is. The IMF also makes loans, again, because they touch the loans and charge you interest. That's slavery. Yeshua said not to do that. That's why the money chases out the temple, and helps countries design policy programs to solve balance of payments problems, and sufficient financing of affordable terms cannot be obtained. So this is what they're really getting up to now. I just find it interesting. Now I'm going to move on a little bit more because they know what they're doing. This is the one I really want to show you. You can see that there is the bank in Rome. You can see that there is the Basel Bank. So you can see how it's run by the Vatican. You can see it's the same institution. So I'm showing you where it starts and where it ends. You can see that's the new one. That's the old institution that's been there, enslaving everybody. So that's the bank that's in the Church of Jesus in Rome. The monster octopus has so many tentacles, but all of these sucking arms, nothing is more secretive than the central bank of all central banks, the Bank of International Settlements, is nestled in a country with the Red Cross, the flag represented, which is Swaziland. The Bank of International Settlements headquarters, shown above, looks a lot like the Vatican Bank in Rome because it is the Vatican Bank. Where their methods creating the most elaborate enslavement scheme were formulated, done in the uttermost secrecy, in all activities are beyond reaching and understanding, even by Swiss law, enforcing agencies and government, the elements of secrecy and diplomatic immunity characterize evil intent on the part of the real owners. And I'm not even going to get any further that. The Rothschilds are quite low down, by the way. They're not the highest family. The Rothschilds basically are the guardians for the Roman cult. They're only guardians. Apart from the bit of bloodlines are higher than them, and some of the Rothschilds are married in there. It's all for bloodlines and stuff. I've been looking into it. Getting into the focus. At the top of the agenda was the proposed formation of new international banks and international monetary system that would assist the allies after rebuilding. And this is where the banks are. I'm not going to go on this too much because I've kind of touched it. But basically, July 1944, 1 month after Normandy, the second invasion during the Second World War II, over 700 delegates from, and again, look at the maths, do the numerology, 744, the maths is sick. Delegates from 44 allied nations met at the Mount Washington Resort Hotel at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to discuss and agree on the New World Order financial system, which is not the New World Order, it's the same World Order because, again, it's through the Vatican. So it's just the same bullshit, it's just that people don't realize, you get me? So I'm just going to call it what it is, because you know what I mean? But that's what it is. I'm sorry, and I'll try not to swear, I won't do that again. But it is a fraud. Excuse my language. I'll try and avoid that. But you know, when you just know what's really going on, you just think, you know, it's just ridiculous. Like, we're not shouldn't be having to deal with half of this stuff, because everything they're doing is to enslave people, and it's not for our benefit. So that's why I was talking about not contracting with them, because really we just got the meaning of ourselves. We should be looking after one another and not even doing business with them. We just need to stay away from them, because if the only way we're going to shut it down is, like Ian said, is like what Brian was saying, is by knowing it, send that same energy out there. Other people wake up to it, they stop contracting, and we just shut the whole thing down just by not even bothering with them, because we know they're a fraud, and everything they've done, they never gave us full disclosure on anyway. This is what's happening. This is part of the new system. You need to look into the special drawing rights and the new Moon Eye, because the moon controls the seas, money, cosmogony, Moon Eye system and the BRICS. So basically what's happening is, Ian, how am I doing for time? Okay. Basically what they're doing is, the system runs on a 6-6 frequency at the minute. The Earth's vibration is rising up, the Schumann resonance is going up, because the age of Aquarius is coming. The Jesuits already knew this. So the ISIS or ISIL or ISIS is running on a 5-5 frequency. So what's happening is, I'm going to show you in a bit, they're having to change this old, what they call an old system, which is not, it's still the same system, but they're adjusting the frequencies, the energy behind this system. That's what's going on. So when they're bringing a new beast, it will function on the new realities. It will function. That's what I'm going to be exposing in a little while. So that's what's really going on, is that the monetary system we've got in place now is going to be torn to shreds, and they're going to put a new, they're going to write this term down: Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. What they'll do is they're going to call all, you see now, terrorists, all the nonsense, problem. So what they're saying, immigration, Theresa May, immigration, Brexit, immigration. Same program, same contract they're giving you. And they say, we're going to cut immigration, their solution, Hegelian dialectic. Anytime they want something doing, they put the problem out there, they scream that they say, we know what to do. And we say, oh yeah, we'll take that. That's the same enslavement they just want to give you. How about that? You need to stop contracting with them. That's what's really going on. So SDRs was created. And remember, they've been planning this for a while. They knew what they were doing. They knew the age of Aquarius was coming, so they knew that to make the change. They don't make changes because they want to. They make changes because other things that are running the solar system, they have to, because they don't have a choice. What they have to do is fool us into the illusions, thinking that they know what they're doing, and actually all they're doing is knowing the higher science that we knew that, we do it ourselves, and we wouldn't need them. That's all that's really going on. SDR was created by the IMF in 1969 as a supplementary international reserve asset. Remember, the dollar at the moment is the United States corporation. The dollar is the world's reserve currency. It used to be the pound before that when they had the Inquisition. The dollar is going to be taken out of circulation. They're going to get rid of the dollar soon. Carl News is talking about it. And this is what's coming in place. This is what they're putting in. So in the Bretton Woods fixed exchange system, a country participating in this system needed official reserves, government or central bank holdings of gold, and widely accepted as foreign currencies that could be used to purchase the domestic currency in foreign exchange markets as required to maintain the exchange rate. But the international supply of two key reserve assets, gold and US dollar, proved inadequate for supporting the expansion of the world trade and financial flows that was taking place. Therefore, the international community decided to create the new international reserve asset under the auspices of the IMF. So again, it's under the same institutions that are going to control it. All right? So what they're doing is they're going to create the SDRs, and what they're going to do is they're going to have the SDRs, and they're going to run, the countries are going to get rid of all this. So what will happen is they'll reset, I'm going to talk about it in a bit, they'll reset the currencies, and they're going to change up the currencies so we get a different flow of energy on the currencies, and they're going to be doing that shortly. Now, I just want to move on from this because I'm running out of time and I've got lots to. So the Silk Road, this is what's important. I know you can't see that picture very well. The ancients, this is what they set up. This is part of the new beast that's coming, by the way. It's part of the new beast. The ancient Silk Road throughout Europe and Asian countries, east from the city of Chang'an, or Luoyang, and the west to the capital of Eastern Roman Empire, Constantinople. Again, we've talked about Constantine, with a total length of 7,000 kilometers. The Silk Road connecting Asia, Europe, and Africa is a grounds where the world's major civilizations bred. Here appeared the religions which have tremendous impact, such as Buddhism and Christianity, spread all over the Eastern and Western culture to give great influence on the modern international system. Religious exchanges. Emerging empires in the historical facilitate exchange along the Silk Road through political and military consolidation. The spread of the religions did the same by creating religious and cultural. Missionaries often traveled on the same routes or even together with merchants, affording them the promise of divine protection, here we go again, along the way. Monasteries in remote places served as stations, pilgrim centers as market towns, and the common faith and knowledge to scriptural languages made travel easier to co-religionists far from home. This is what they're doing. Now, basically, you know what I'm doing for time, just keeping a conscious eye on it. Yeah. Okay. You'll know about this. It was in the news recently. Did anybody watch the news recently where it talked about the Chinese president investing billions of pounds? So you know where I'm going with this, don't you? Because you've been watching it. So President Xi Jinping visited Kazakhstan in September 2013 and put forward the idea of building the Silk Road economic belt in his speech at the, I can't pronounce that. That was Bexar University, some university. Can't bother going there. The President Xi Jinping visited Indonesia in October, so you remember they're setting this all up, in 2013, and put forward the idea of the 21st century maritime Silk Road in his speech at the People's Representative Council of Indonesia. Let's see, America's new Silk Road plan, proposed by American Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, July 2011, which focuses on the security of the region after the U.S. troops withdraws from Afghanistan. It has 3 key points. The first, to ensure security. Everyone's securing bonds anyway. You need to look at what the word security is and securities mean. Of the region. The second, development of regional frameworks to manage the India-Pakistan relations. Third, America will play a key role in the region, developing to ensure the American influence. Russia to erase economic integration. 3 CIS countries, Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, signed the Eurasian Economic Integration on May 2014. According to the agreement, their 3 countries will realize free flow of goods, meaning people, services, capital, labor, at the beginning of that year. So they've already started to implement some of this already, so it's already happening. This is what I wanted to get to. History of the missions of the Jesuits in China. Because remember, China's leading this new system, as you just pointed out, you know yourself. China's going to be bringing out these billions of economic powers, billions of this, but who's really behind it? The history of the missions of the Jesuits in China in the modern and as it stands as one of the notable events, the early history and relations between China and the Western world, as well as the prominent example in relations between 2 cultures and belief systems. The pre-modern age, the missionary efforts of the other work of the Society of Jesus or Jesuits between the 16th century and 17th century played a significant role in introducing Western knowledge, science, and the culture to China. Their work laid much of the foundation of much of the Christian culture in the Chinese society today. The first attempt by the Jesuits to reach China was made in 1552 by Francis St. Xavier, Spanish priest and missionary and founding member of the society. Xavier, however, died the same year on the Chinese island of, I can't pronounce, I'm not going to go there, without having reached the mainland. 3 decades later, in 1582, led by several figures, including, and again, prominent Italian Matteo Ricci, write that down and you'll find out who he is. Jesuits once again initiated missionary work to China, ultimately introducing Western science, mathematics, astronomy, cosmography, remember I told you, and visual arts to the imperial court, and carrying a significant intercultural and philosophical dialogue with the Chinese scholars. They took over. Particular representative of, I'm not going to go, Confucianism at the time of their peak influence in the 18th and 19th century. Members of the Jesuit delegation were considered some of the emperor's most valued and trusted advisors, holding numerous prestige posts and the imperial government. Many Chinese, including notable former, I'm not going to get their scholars, adopted Christian and became priests and members of the Society of Jesus. Hence why the Jiang Jinping's setting up the new system and the Jesuits are behind it all. So you can see how the whole thing is being controlled from the get-go. That's where the issue is. People don't know all this stuff. This is what's going on. I love this bit. Remember the law of banking known as the International Maritime and Admiralty Law. I did talk about it. The maritime law is based on the Vatican canon law. All the world banks, known as central banks, are controlled by the SOM. Does anybody know what the SOM is? Sovereign Order of Knights of Malta. You need to look up who the Knights of Malta are. Tony Blair is a Knight of Malta. Most of these leaders are Knights of Malta. The Queen, she's the Dame Hospital Knights of Malta. They're a secret society who run the planet on behalf of the Roman cult. And you have to, Nelson Mandela was a Knight of Malta. A lot of people don't know that. Haile Selassie was a Knight of Malta. A lot of people don't know about that. And this is why I've been finding out, thinking all these leaders, Bob Marley and all these leaders, and most of them are part of these orders. And I'm like, oh, so now I know how they get their wealth, their fame, because they've got blood secret oaths. I've got some work on this I was studying. They've got blood secret oaths to run the planet for the Roman cult. And that's why they're all part of these secret societies. So yeah, the Sovereign Member of Order of Malta, you need to look that up. That's what it is. Controls Switzerland. The Federal Reserve pays the Bank of England, which is true. The slaves in America, the money comes from Al-Maroc, which is the continent you call America, which is not, it's Al-Maroc. Comes over here, it came last month at the East Gate. It comes over here, this is why your financial year ends when the summer solstice happens. Spring equinox happens, because it's when the planet wakes up and it's when the vibrations come up. So the Jesuits get paid at that particular point, because it's when nature comes to life. So they're using the real cycles to run the planet properly. But people think, you celebrate New Year in the dead of the year. This is why Jesuits celebrate their New Year then at East Star, the East Gate. So that's what's really going on. It's cosmogony. You need to understand what cosmogony is, because that's how they're doing it properly. The Reserve Bank pays the Bank of England, which finally ends up in the Swiss International Bank of Settlements. All you need to do is study the SOM and its members and look who's in banking. That's all you need to do. This is key. Write that term down, because they're claiming your soul. Convocation. The third trust came in 1531, which claims your soul. That's a big thing they're doing. We have all been baptized into the Catholic Church by the birth certificate. It's a ritual they perform in hospitals, which I tell you about to pick the soles of the feet. Okay, it's called live procreation. Now I wanted to get on something. This is what's really going on. This is what's happening. I'm going to get in on this in a sec. So what's happening is, when they reset the planet financially, they're going to reset the global currency reset. They'll do it in these phases. This reset, in a reset where we will be release of funds and forgiveness of debt. The debt is a cabal concept from Orion, and there's other beings involved in this. I'm not going to get on that today. Debt is used to control the masses. Money is promoted as a means of exchange, but in fact, it's a method of producing debt and slavery. We will all have to forgive ourselves and others, because we're going to have to learn to realize we're going to have to get rid of the money, get rid of all the nonsense. The karmic system, or sin, self-ignorant nonsense. That's what sin is. Self-ignorant nonsense, not knowing who you are. Calling yourself legal fiction, all this nonsense that you don't need. In Catholicism, involves debt and slavery in the etheric realms. That's why they prick the soles of your feet, to your blood, to your energy in your body. That's why they prick the soles of the feet. People work every day, real physical work, in order to pay back those who only enter numbers into a computer. And in fact, there are actually ethereal banking technology which interfaces with the main banking system. This involves plasma. I'm going to talk about that in a second. The dark archons receive information about all individuals, and that's what's going on. Now, have any of you got a bank card on you? Pull it out. I'll do something quite practical with you. If any of you just happen to have your bank cards on you, pull it out if you've got it on you. Okay. I'm going to show you just here. See that there? You've got see the little line in between, right? What happens is, if you've got lines in between the bank cards where it says your sort code, that means it's what's called a debtor. If you're a credit of an account, you don't have no lines in between. If you're a debit of an account, you have the lines in between. So if your name's on there, the legal fiction, Mr., that's your non-negay, that's legal fiction. Your name's in all caps. Your second name is an epithet, it doesn't exist. And then your account is an unsecured loan. And you know this by looking at the sort code, and it's got the dash in between. That's what makes you debt. So look at your cards. Don't take my word for it, but that's what it is anyway. That's what they're doing. So any banks that if you don't own your bank accounts, the Jesuits own the bank accounts. It's just an unsecured loan. That's what's going on. This is what I want to get to my friends here. The Roman Curia, there is only one government. Are we clear? There's only one government, and there's only been always one government. All the other governments are underneath this beast. Are we clear? Are we clear? The Roman Curia is the company of officials, advisors, and the clergy employed by the Roman Pontiff through the papal chamber or Curia in the government of the public face of the Roman Catholic Church or by the Roman cult. The Curia was also known as the Roman Curia Romanium, was first formed as the highest judicial and administrative, there's a key word again, administrative body of the Catholic Ecclesia, the Catholic Church, in 742 CE by the eldest son of Charles Martel named Carloman and Vicarius Christi Vicarius. And in the announcement of the administrative structure of the new Christian Church in opposition to the Holy Roman Empire, also known as Byzantium. So basically, I'm not religious, it's a body politic. People keep thinking, oh, you're talking about, no, it's a body politic. It's a body politic. The people get caught up in religion and they don't need to, it's a body politic. That's what's really going on. So that's what's happened now. I wanted to talk about something briefly, and hopefully I get a chance to do it. Ian, how am I doing for time? Just, oh my days. Ooh. Basically, this is what they're doing. The planet is surrounded by energy fields. And these are the energy fields. So basically, plasma is, basically, I'm going to read just a little bit about it, just a time, but not much. Basically, plasma is the plane between the physical and the etheric realm, and its hidden location where the archons have concealed most of their darkness, in which their utmost secret. The plasmic plane was created as a result of torsion forces between the physical and the etheric realm as directed conscious and cosmic anomaly in the universe. So basically what they've been doing is the energies that exist, the Earth's grids, the Earth's ley lines, that's why they do all these rituals. What they're doing is they function on this higher level, on the spiritual level, and we're down, further down, down the pole. So if you look here, I'll just show you down as I go down. And we're on the bottom here. We function on the bottom. So what we do is we're sending that emotional, physical energy. That's why they do trauma-based programming, warfare, murdering people, because that energy feels back into that. When doing that, I'm communicating right now. The energy feeds into the environment, feeds into the earth grids, and then feeds in like this, and it feeds up. So that's how they're actually controlling everybody. So it's like shown in the Matrix. It's exactly that. They're using advanced etheric hyperdimensional technology. That's what CERN's all about and stuff like that. So that's what's really, really going on. I want to show one more thing before I get off because I'm nearly done. There's something that's due to come, and I hope I've got it up. Basically, this is what they're trying to play out to as a futuristic event. And I think I'm going to just find this one thing I'll come with. Basically, they're trying to play out Revelation through cosmogony. On September the 23rd this year, there's an alignment. I can actually show you, but I need to get my thingy up. I can actually show you there's an alignment, and it's in Revelation in the book. They know this because they know cosmogony. And it's the woman, she's got the moon beneath her feet, and 12 stars above her head. You know what I'm on about, 12 stars above her head. And basically, Jupiter, remember the Pope sits on the throne of Peter. Jupiter is coming out of the womb. It's cosmogony they're running. What they're going to try and do is play out Revelation not on September, and I'm going to make this very clear, not on September the 23rd. Reality does not work like that. Reality works differently. On this date, they will have some ritualistic events, but over from that date up until 2025, they'll be setting in what I've been showing you, the new world system in place. So from September the 23rd, when this alignment happens, they'll be getting all these energies up, doing all these rituals, and they'll be programming everybody, which is what Brian Gersh was talking about earlier on, into this new system. And that will take place over that 7-year period. That's why I talk about the 7-year period in tribulation in the Bible. I can show you it if I get time. But they're doing that because the age of Aquarius is coming. It's mentioned in Revelation, it's just that people don't know how to read the book. Paul says to, I think, not Paul, it's one of the disciples says to Yeshua, not Jesus. He says, you're going to come back in 2,000 years from now. But how do we know? How do you know you're going to come back? And Yeshua says to him, go into my house, there are many houses, going through the door, and you see a man pouring water. That's Aquarius. It's cosmogony. People think we're talking about literature, it's cosmogony. Another example of that is Yeshua fed the 5,000 fish. That's the age of Pisces. He fed people, I believe. They've got mottos. So the age of Pisces is I believe. The age of Aquarius is I know. So they know. So that I believe when the people, to Jesus fed the 5,000 fish to the people, that's talking about when the age of Aquarius came. That's what it's mentioned in the Bible. When you had Moses and they worshipped the golden calf, and the golden calf, that's talking about Aries. And then there's the golden bull, that's talking about the age of Taurus. So they know the cosmogony, but we just don't read the books properly. So that's what they're really talking about in these in that book. So that's what they're really on about in the Revelation. That's how they're doing it. So that's what really is happening. It's this cosmogony. It's how they run the planet properly, how things are done properly. So that's what's really happening. Just pop up yourself in a bit because he's not going to let me go on. But I could just go on because it's mad what I've had to do with it. It's insane.
Excellent stuff, mate. I've just texted the hotel to cancel lunch because I know you're all going to have to go lie down. It's truly amazing. And he did tell me that, he needed the time to run a workshop. And I said, absolutely, you'll have the time. Let me just switch mics. On Monday. And let me just make the observation, this isn't just the research, it works in practice. And Del and I spent probably about 2 hours on the phone a few weeks ago because most of you will remember that last year I told you that I'd just been through the courts on 7 occasions with Rathlin Energy fighting their efforts to bankrupt me. And for those of you that supported me and came to the courts, you will of course know that I challenged the jurisdiction of the bankruptcy court at every stage of the way. V7, I was in the court, and despite challenging the jurisdiction, legitimately using exactly the techniques here, I presented me, the living man, as the executor of my Sestwick EV trust. And I had the courts running in circles. And I challenged the jurisdiction and the registrar, and of course it's called a registrar on the judge because they're administering probate. And I went in there and he said, I told him he had no jurisdiction. And he basically said, I have all the jurisdiction I need, you're bankrupt, please leave. And I just said, well, you don't have any jurisdiction. How can you make me bankrupt? Anyway, he said, no, please leave, please leave. And even the Rathlin barrister was quite shocked by this. Anyway, a week after AV7, I checked the Gazette. And so this is a matter of public record. You can check the Gazette because that's where they publish the list of estates that they've unlawfully administered. And what you'll find is that on May the 4th last year, some guy called Ian Crane was made bankrupt. But this Ian Crane is listed an address that has nothing to do with me. So what they did was they knew they couldn't make me bankrupt because I hadn't given them jurisdiction at any stage of the way. So what they did was they created a legal fiction that has nothing to do with me, and they made that legal fiction bankrupt. So the bottom line is that Ian Crane is bankrupt. That legal fiction, for this one, is now a nightmare to the establishment.
If you just get some time, I've got some interesting books down there talking about some of the theories I was about, facts and theories I was on about. So just come see, get the references, get the books in terms of, look, not paper, but just photograph them and then go home and do your own due diligence. Just thanks, you've been a fantastic audience. If you've got time to come to our workshop, please come because I'm going to expose the postal union stuff that we were on about, mail fraud. I've got some very practical tips to give you. You're going to absolutely love it. It's going to be fantastic. Stuff you can use to protect yourself with, stuff where we are using already, exposing the fraud and all the other stuff. There's so much more I could have got into, but yeah. So yeah, please come and I'll quite happily share the information with you. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Del.
you.